Welcome to a first impressions of a very anticipated palette by myself and many others, the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy Palette. As I've said in literally every video recently, my life's a little bit all over the place right now, so it's taken a while for me to get to this video, but I'm so excited by it. As usual, I mean, this is probably one of the better Beauty Bay palette packagings, but I feel like with Beauty Bay, pretty much expectations for packaging is on the bar is on the floor, and I'm not really like looking to Beauty Bay to have like any type of extra special packaging or anything like that, so I honestly I'm not super bothered, but this is the color story, and honestly, the more I look at it, the more this palette thrills me. It is, I'm so excited to dip into it. It's literally a grunge dream. It is, in fact, a dark fantasy, and let's just get into it, you know? It's a first impressions. I'm going to start with live swatches. Let me know if you still like those because I do up close swatches. I don't have to continue to do live swatches. I'm going to try to make them a little bit quicker and more succinct, but typically with my first impressions, I like to like not even have swatched the palette and just like swatch it all together. And to me, that's kind of exciting, but I understand if it's maybe a little bit redundant, so just let me know how you feel about it. Anyway, I'm just going to put my arm up. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more, and let's just give her a swatchy swatch. So starting with the shade Atmosphere, which is a matte white. Then the shade Hoax, which is a neutral matte brown. Transmission. Ooh. It's like a dirty gold with tons of sparkle. Oh my god. Then the shade Plasma, which is a light green, almost like a sagey green. Then the shade Virtual, which is basically a matte black with silver glitter, and I don't typically care for these shadows. Anyway, then the shade Reality, which is a gorgeous matte burgundy. The shade Encrypted, which is a shimmer. It's almost like a rose gold. Slime, a bright matte green. Machine is a metallic green. Again, has a little bit of saginess to it. Really sparkly, so pretty. Spaced is a dark forest green matte. So appreciative of the fact there's a dark green in here. The shade Nightmare is a beautiful jewel toned purple metallic, not quite as sparkly. It's more on the like almost satiny side, I want to say. The shade Grunge is a dark purple matte. These might not swatch the best because my skin's a little bit dry right now. So I'm not going to judge it too harshly based on that. The shade Hack, which is stunning. It's a really sparkly icy pink. Algorithm is a camely matte brown. Distortion is a like deep burgundy shimmer with like a black base, it looks like. Dark Matter is a matte black. So I don't necessarily love that there's a sequin black and a matte black, because to me that means like basically there's two matte blacks. The shade Grime, which is a beautiful like silvery charcoal shade. Oh god, that's so pretty. Source is a kind of like purpley blue shade. So pretty. And the last two shades are Code, which is a bright silver, and Hardcore, which is a deep indigo. Oh, so beautiful. So this is the palette all swatched out. Love the color. Sorry, truly such a beautiful, colorful grunge palette, I want to say, with some beautiful shimmers. And honestly, I feel like you can go in so many different directions with this. My only gripe is that there's a sequin black and a matte black. If that had been a like metallic black, I would have no issues, but I feel like sequin shades and matte shades at the end of the day perform pretty much the same. So to me, it's almost like there's just two matte blacks, like two of the same shades in the palette, and that to me just feels like a complete waste of a shade, which is my only real disappointment in the actual color story. So now, I also do want to say that I did buy the face palette in the shade Light. I believe this is new, and or new-ish, and I will use this. I'm going to just use this for the first time on my face together, but probably after I do my top eyeshadow, like eyeshadow on my top lid. But yeah, I'm going to roll some up close individual swatches and some eye swatches now. I will leave chapters, so if you want to like jump around you can, and then do a little eye look together. welcome to my haggard face, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to be doing eye swatches of the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette. As I have been doing in my eye swatch videos slash segments of videos, I'm going to prime using the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base before each swatch. It's not super tacky. It doesn't have any pigment. I just think that it makes eyeshadows going really well, and it's my favorite eyeshadow primer. Okay, so I will also be referencing the shade descriptions that Beauty Bay has for these shades, but as I found, Beauty Bay doesn't typically have amazing shade descriptions. They're pretty much as basic as they come. Anyway, first shade in the palette, starting off with the shade Atmosphere, which is a white matte, and that is how Beauty Bay also describes it. I would say it looks pretty good. I feel like it did gather a little bit in my creases, but honestly, it's fine. For a white matte, I will never use it this way, but it does go on like pretty well in my opinion. Alright, the next shade is the shade Hoax, which is another matte shade. Honestly, very nice, as is typical of Beauty Bay. They describe this as a deep brown matte. Again, they typically barely have undertones or anything. It's pretty neutral. It's just a neutral brown, but still nice. Okay, now the first shimmer of the palette, which is the shade Transmission. So pretty. I'm gonna go in with this dry first. Pretty, and that's just dry. Now I'm going to give this a little spray. This is just with water, so nothing crazy. Just to see how it looks when it goes on wet. Oh, so pretty. That's so sparkly. And then I'm just going to go in with my finger. Look at that. Beauty Bay describes this as a gold shimmer, which it is. I feel like it's almost like an antique-y gold, like there's a depth to it, and it's not super yellowy gold, almost like a hint of greenness to it, and super textured, super sparkly. The next shade is the shade Plasma, which is a matte green shade. Glorious. Look at that. That went on so easily. They describe this as being a light green matte, which it is. I feel like it's a very like sagey green. So nice. I have hopes and dreams of wearing makeup after this, and sometimes it's hard to get like all of the shimmers and stuff off. So there might be a little bit of residue from the previous shadow in my eyes, but will live, I think. We'll all live. Okay. So the next shade is the shade Virtual, which is a sequin black. And we'll see how this goes. Well, that went on so easily and pigmented, and you can see, hopefully you can see the sparkles, but like it's nice, but I don't know. I'm just not a sequin, like I just don't get the point of them. Anyway, they describe this as a black shimmer, which I would not agree with. I think it's like it's not a black shimmer. It's a black sequin shade. It's a matte with sparkles in it. And then the next shade is the shade Reality, which is another matte shade. Gorgeous. I think this is honestly my favorite shade in the palette. It's such a beautiful like cranberry. They describe this as being an oxblood matte, which I would agree with. So pretty. Okay, so the next shade up is a shimmer. It's the shade Encrypted. Again, starting with this dry. Okay, so pretty. Now I'm going to take this and give it a spray. Build that up. Again, so sparkly, and then take that on my finger and intensify it again. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So Beauty Bay describes this as being a brown shimmer, but I feel like it is, but it has like, there's something to it where it has almost, it's like a bronzy with like a rosy gold quality. It's not a rose gold, but I don't know. It's so pretty though. Stunning. And then next up is a matte, the shade Slime. Another matte green. And again, goes on so beautifully. Maybe I could build it up a little bit more in this inner part. It's just a beautiful bright matte green. Yeah, what did they describe this as? A bright green matte. Has a little bit of a yellowiness to it, but not quite like super, super neon, but just very like bright. Okay, so another shimmer. This is the shade Machine. Starting off with it dry. beautiful? Giving this a little spray now, building it up. And then taking it on my finger. Look at that. Why does this give me Christmas in such a major way? Oh, that's so pretty and so sparkly. Beauty Bay describes this as being a green shimmer, which is true. It's like a forest green with like lighter green sparkle to it. Delicious. And then another matte, the shade Spaced. Ugh, again, beautifully applied, or applied beautifully. Beauty Bay describes this as being a dark green matte, which is true. Again, kind of like a sagey green tone. Super deep, super opaque, super beautiful. Okay, next up is another shimmer. It's the shade Nightmare. It looks like it might have a different texture than the other shimmers so far. So we'll just see starting dry. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a different texture. It's a metallic but not quite as sparkly. Still really pretty though, and went on really opaquely. Going to spray this. And then take it on my finger and intensify it. Really, really nice purple. And Beauty Bay describes this as being a purple shimmer, but it's a purple shimmer that has like almost a blue shine to it. Next up is the shade Grunge, which is beautiful. It's a matte shade. My God, is this beautiful. It's like such a beautiful dark eggplant. How do they describe this? A deep purple matte. Yeah, so nice. Okay, next up is the shade Hack. Another, what looks to be a really sparkly shimmer. So again, going in dry with this. A little bit more sheer, but also at the same time it's like a lighter color that's closer to my skin tone, so it's a little bit more difficult to tell regardless. But I'm gonna wet my brush. Super textured and super sparkly though. And then take this on my finger and intensify it. So pretty. Beauty Bay describes this as being an ice pink shimmer, which is very accurate. I want to say it's like an icy pink shimmer with like silver sparkle. Really, really pretty. And then another matte, the shade Algorithm. Just an absolutely, just a really nice, like caramelly matte brown. Beauty Bay describes this as being a mid-brown matte. Very true. Pretty neutral, maybe with the slightest like hint of like a caramelly, like yellowishness, but overall like a pretty just neutral brown. Okay, next up, another shimmer is the shade Distortion. Starting off dry. Pretty. Seriously. Okay, now spraying it. And then using my finger. So to me, this is like a black based shimmer with like a plum kind of eggplant sparkle to it. They describe this as being an oxblood shimmer, which it is, but it almost has like a gold to it as well. Super beautiful. And then a matte black, the shade Dark Matter. Will this be that much different to Virtual? Probably not. A very nice matte black, which is pretty typical for Beauty Bay. And Beauty Bay describes this as being a matter black matte. Okay, Beauty Bay. It's matte black. Okay, so next up we have the shade Grime. Another shimmer, starting dry. Beautiful. Super sparkly. Spraying this. And then going in with my finger. Oh, you guys. So textured, so sparkly, like a silvery gunmetal shade, which I believe is, yeah, how Beauty Bay describes it, a gunmetal shimmer. And then next up is another shimmer. This is the shade Source. Again, doesn't look super sparkly. Similar to the purple. So this is it dry. Okay, so definitely took some building up dry. It's one of their more like putty kind of formulas that I honestly think just like finger is truly your best bet. Okay. I'm gonna wet this now and build it up. So even that is better. But now I'm gonna take my finger and intensify it. Yeah, with this specific formula from Beauty Bay, like almost like a putty shadow, finger is definitely the way. Still beautiful though once you actually get it on your eyes. Not quite as like textured, but it's nice. They describe this as a blue shimmer, which is true. It's like a royal blue, almost indigo shimmer. Okie doke. The last two shades. So first up we have the shade Code, which is another beautiful sparkly shimmer. Starting dry. Ooh. Okay, a little bit sheer, but so sparkly. Going in with this wet. Oh, that's just so pretty. Then using my finger, and then this way you can get a little bit more opacity from it. It's so textured and sparkly, you guys. I love it. Like an icy, silvery white. They describe this as being a blue shimmer. Oh, a silver shimmer. Oh, they don't have the last shade name. That's funny. It's up to me. But yeah, it definitely is like a silvery white shimmer, like a very light silver. And then the last shade is a matte, the shade Hardcore. And I mean, literally, look at this. Ugh, you, full stop, period, cannot make a better, like, indigo, like, deep navy shadow. Did you just see how that went on? I mean, stupid beautiful. Yeah, so it's basically a navy. It has, like, a touch of, like, indigo in there, but stunning. And that concludes the eye swatches for this. Okay, so I believe I know what I would like to do. I want to really kind of mix and match a lot of things today, but I'm gonna do a halo eye. I think I'm gonna start with the shade Hardcore, which is this like navy indigo kind of shade, which looks absolutely stunning. And as always, I prime my eyes using the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base, and I have not set my lids. I have not used this palette yet, but I mean, I have used Beauty Bay palettes before many times over. Anyway, this, I was so excited when I saw this shade in here. It's one of like the shades I'm most excited about, just because you know me. If you know me, you know I love depth and deep mattes, and I feel like this palette has many of them, so it just really makes my heart sing. And I'm just going to pack this on in my inner and outer corner and connect it through my crease, pretty much how I typically do halo eyes. Nothing super different from how I typically do halo eyes. Okay, beautiful. As expected, absolutely no issues. Now I'm going to take the shade Reality, I don't know why this shade excites me so much, but I was immediately like drawn to it when I first saw this palette. Anyway, I'm going to blend the edges out of the shade Hardcore. It always makes me like, whoever is coming up with color stories for Beauty Bay deserves like a major raise. I don't even care if they just got a raise, they deserve another raise, because I feel like they're truly one of the only brands that are, I don't know, they're probably not, I don't know if they're considered indie or not. Regardless, they're one of the only brands out of mainstream and indie truly that is coming out with like genuinely interesting color stories that I feel like I haven't seen 1,000 times. You can tell that like thought has been put into them, and I just really, really appreciate like what they bring to the beauty industry and like kind of the market. And they're not expensive, they're relatively affordable, and they're such good quality. It's just like refreshing almost in a way, because I feel like so often we're used to super expensive makeup or indie brands that are expensive because, I mean, they have to be, they're a smaller business, or color stories that we've seen 1,001 times that, you know, aren't really that inventive. And I don't know, I just really feel so passionately, unexpectedly about Beauty Bay and their palettes, but I just really, really appreciate it. And they're like one of the main brands that I am like constantly looking forward to seeing what they're releasing. And I mean, they do release frequently-ish, but also they're not releasing everything like, or as frequently as like ColourPop, for example, or a lot of other brands. Like, I feel like they've pretty like relatively well spaced out palette releases and things like that. And I don't know, I just really am into them and appreciate them. I really also, by the way, love how this shade blended out. Hardcore. I think it's super pretty. It's almost getting a little bit darker, kind of where the shades meet, but I'll blend it out with another shade after this, so it's fine. I'm gonna take the tiniest, like I can't even emphasize how tiny, the tiniest bit of the shade Hardcore, and just blend that in like the edges into Reality, just to help the two shades blend a touch better. Just going over the edges with the totally clean brush. And then I'm going to take a mixture of the shade Algorithm and Atmosphere. I want Algorithm to be just a touch lighter, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the white. Not too much, mostly the shade Algorithm, but anyway. And then I'm going to blend the edges of Reality out with that. You know what? I take it back. I'm just going to take the shade Algorithm by itself. Yeah, I think I thought it was going to be a little bit darker than it is. And just because I think that got a little bit lost in the blending, I'm going to take Reality again and just blend this between Hardcore and Algorithm, just to make sure that burgundy is still here. But look at this blend. Oh my god, you guys. I can't even get over how pretty that is. That's so nice. And then for my lid, I'm going to take the shade Distortion and then the shade Encrypted. I'm going to take some NYX glitter primer first and just put this like all over basically the center of my lid. I'm actually going to cut this little tube open because I am running so low. Oh wow, there's a lot in here that I could grab. I don't do this, but I can't. I tried to reorder it, or I don't typically do this, but I tried to reorder this on the NYX website, and I couldn't find it, and it isn't really sold in stores near me, so I'm kind of at a loss right now. So cutting it open I shall. Anyway, I'm gonna just put this, I'm just gonna leave like the very outer and inner parts of my lid blank. Okay, and now I'm gonna take Encrypted and put this just in the center of my lid. That's very sparkly and very beautiful. I can't even get over that shade. And then I'm going to put Distortion on the edges. That's really beautiful as well. I'm going to take a little bit of the shade Hardcore, which was the indigo shade, and blend this into my inner and outer corners. And also just make sure that the depth is like where I want it to be, and like the placement that I want it to be. Take a touch of Reality, and again just blend that over the edge of everything, and then take a little bit more of the shade Algorithm and just blend that over the very edge. Oh my god. Okay, I'm quickly going to put the shimmers on my other eye and be right back. Okay, so I just did that on my other eye. I also blended the two shimmers on my lid together because I realized I hadn't done that yet, but I just went back and forth between the two shades. Pretty simple. Now I'm going to take, for a little bit of fun, the shade Virtual, just because, I don't know, I feel like it's the more fun option between that and Dark Matter. And I'm just going to take this and put that on my very inner and outer corners. Especially for halo eyes, I really don't mind having like shimmer everywhere. There's like a little bit of sparkle, but nothing major, which is not that surprising to me. Gorgeous. And then I'm going to take Encrypted and Distortion on my fingers and just intensify these on my lids. Will also help to blend them together. They're so pretty. And then I'm also going to put Distortion like pretty much over top of my inner and outer corners as well. Oh, so pretty. I did get a little bit on my outer parts of my eye, but honestly, whatever. Okay, and so now let's use the face palette. It's not going to be anything major. I mean, it's just bronzer, blush, and highlight. But I imagine that it's going to be good. And I do have cream, blush, and contour on it. The Fenty Matchstick in Amber and the Quo Beauty Lip and Cheek Mud in the shade Russet. But it's not overly, you know, like bold, so I'm not super bothered. And I typically use cream, contour, and blush under my makeup anyway. Okay, so I'm going to first start with the bronzer. Apparently it's in the shade Hazelnut. I'm going to go in with a light hand because I've never used it before. Just tapping it on. I mean, honestly, most bronzers are generally fine. Like, very rarely do I hate a bronzer. Yeah, and I actually like this shade a lot. And I really like the color as well. Like, it's not super orange, which I like. And I feel like it's pretty pigmented. Like, I used a very small amount, so I think it could work for light to medium. And I think the other face palette they have is actually pretty deep, which is great to see. Typically before I do highlight, I spray my face, and I have done that, but it's been a bit. So I'm going to just do that again. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Calming Facial Oil Mist. I don't know. And then take the highlight shade, which is called Precious, which looks super bright. It looks and feels, because I did give this a little bit of a swatch, kind of like a Super Shock texture. Oh, that's quite gold, actually. Maybe not the best shade for me in the entire world, but it's pretty. You have to like a metallic highlighter, though. And I feel like you can see a little bit of a cast when I turn my head forward. And then finally, I'm going to take this shade of blush called Rosebud. It's like a light rosy shade. which actually works very well for this look. And it's nice. It's pigmented, buildable, doesn't get patchy, blends well. I've never used any of Beauty Bay's face products before. Honestly, no complaints thus far. I think it's really nice, and it was super affordable. I think it was like $10, so very nice. Now just to finish out my lower lash line. Am I recording still? Yes. Okay. I'm not going to do anything really different. I'm just going to continue on with the same shades. I'm going to take the shade Hardcore, just put this all underneath my eyes. And then I'm going to take Reality and blend the shade out with that. And then taking Algorithm, blending it out. Taking Virtual, again on the very inner and outer parts of my lower lash line. And then finally, I'm going to take the shimmer. So I'm going to start with the shade Distortion, give that a spray. Put this on my lower lash line on the inner and outer parts of my eyes, and then connecting it with the outer corner of my top lid as well. And then doing the same thing with Encrypted. Putting that right in the center. And then very finally, I'm going to take the shade Atmosphere, the white, and put this on my brow bone to highlight. Amazing. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to finish up my eyes, my lips, and then show you the finished look. Okay, and this is the finished look. On my lips, I put it away, the lippy pencil from ColourPop in the shade Ashton, the e.l.f. Satin, Seriously Satin lipstick in the shade Creme, and the Maybelline Lifter Gloss in the shade Ice. And I just put some lashes on, put a black in my waterline. That's pretty much it. I feel like this look kind of looks like a black eye because of the tones that I use, but in like the best way. Not for everyone perhaps, but certainly for me. And I mean, I haven't done the eye swatches yet, and I've only used a select few shades on my eyes, but the shades that I used performed like Beauty Bay's, you know, I feel like dependable quality. All of the shimmers in here they're like quote unquote good formula. The only thing is some of the deeper shades like the shade Nightmare and the shade Source, I think just because of the nature of the colors aren't super like crazy sparkly, but we've seen that before from other palettes from them. And honestly, like I said, the more that I look at this palette, the more I'm excited by the color story. I feel like there's so many different avenues you could go down, all the way from neutral to like this, you know what I mean? My only gripe, like I said, is that there's this sequin black and then this matte black. I personally never really feel like sequin shadows show up the way that like theoretically they're supposed to, and they essentially end up performing like mattes. So to me, that's a bit meh, but otherwise, I think this is such a great palette. Honestly, I mean, based literally just off of first impressions, one of my favorite color stories that Beauty Bay has done. And I'm so excited to do a 3-look-1 palette with this, which I will be doing soon. And then the face palette, I just thought I'd throw this in here because I also ordered this at the same time as this palette, and I think it's really cute and nice. I'm not a huge face palette person in terms of like bronzer, blush, highlight face palettes. However, I don't know, I feel like it's good, and I think that maybe if you, I don't know, travel a lot, work out of like a makeup bag a lot, or just want a face palette that's affordable, I think this is nice. You gotta like a like metallic highlight though, like a pretty traditional like super intense metallic highlighter. It's not like my ideal color. I think with like all my base makeup on it looks okay, but it definitely is like a little dark for me. And the bronzer I think is nice. I like that it's not super orange. It's very neutral, and I can see myself like this being the one kind of bronzer blush highlight item that I bring with me when I ever leave my house and I need to pack a makeup bag, and I think that actually is quite nice. And again, like I said, I like that the deeper version that they offer is quite deep. It's not just like a deeper version. It, I think, would suit like pretty deep dark skin tones according to me, so take that with a grain of salt, but I do appreciate that. Overall, I'm sure this video is long, so I'll leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the palette and the color story, and I would love to see you in my next video. Bye.